This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Just yesterday, it was a turbulent 12 hours of Sebring. It was one of those races in the iRacing special events that many took an eye on and said, you know what? There is a reason why this race is difficult. But let's just wind back the clock slightly. Not by a day, not by a year, and not even to the start of iRacing. Let's wind it all the way back to the 80s, because we're going classic here with RaceSpot TV on the iRacing Esports Network. Round 3 of the Majors Series takes us for 2 hours of Sebring in Camel GT colours. I'm Jake Sperry, joined alongside with Cam Walsh. Cam, this is absolute bread and butter. Nissan GTP, Audi GTO, and a very, very bumpy American circuit. Classic IMSA, we could technically say, as we get ourselves in for action.
It is always exciting to not just see these cars, but to be at the Sebring International Raceway. I have to say, it's going to be a very difficult 2-hour event here with the Major Series, but it should provide a good show for us all. And the big thing that we have to always kind of remember is just the speed difference between these two style of cars, the GTP and the GTO. They never really thought, you know, hey, let's see if we can balance these cars out back then, as far as making sure that they're close enough. No, these GTP cars are going to be absolutely zipping by these GTO cars, and that makes it so very exciting.
It certainly does. 2 categories of class, and everyone's going to be fighting up and down the field, looking for opportunities. The standings, though, in the championship, it's Matthias Magnussen who holds the advantage for Kinetic Europe. They are 1-2 with Gabriel Roos in second position. Talk Freak Racing and Joshua Wolf are in third with David E. Baker, tied for 4th position at the moment with Christian Schallner, who is the 3rd Kinetic car inside of the top 5. Christian Rose is 6th, Trevor Vorosky tied 7th with Jerome Kaiser, Mikey Grahams and Riley Thompson make the top 10 at the moment. But crucially enough, just keep an eye on where all those championship contenders are, Cam, coming into this event. The answer is they are right in the same category of class, that GTP division, and that's going to be very, very telling for the racing.
Yeah, and not only that, it is going to be an extraordinarily big challenge to not only be driving around themselves in these GTP cars, but once you start getting into lap traffic, start dicing and slicing, start dealing with each other's teammates, it is probably one of the biggest challenges that these people are going to be facing in, I would say, the first half of the Major Series.
And, well, practice is all but over. This is how everyone will line up then as we get ready for one full pace lap around the iRacing Roof First safety car. And it will be the 842 machine of Dave Walsh who will take the pole, with Gabriel Roos alongside. João Valverde will start from 3rd with Kurt Crum in 4th position. Eric Mickey and David E. Baker start on row 3 with Pete Harrod and Mikey Grahams on row number 4. Joshua Wolf and Dawson Brock will start on row 5, with row 6 being held by Jamie Rushworth and Travis Henderson. Trevor Vorosky and Christian Rose are next, with Jean-Francois Arsenault. Matthias Magnussen, the championship leader, a long way down in the qualifying standings. Gentleman John Roberts, Claude Belval, Clifton Naranjo and Uldis Puteklis make up the 20 in the opening category. More of the familiar names that you will find when it comes to your GTO field. Keradin Buafia on pole position with Joni Hagner, the Finnish dynamo, in second. Christian Schallner will start from 3rd with Riley Thompson. 4th, Philip Lake will go from 5th with Rob Alenzajak in 6th position. Row 4 will see Dennis Neidhart and Marcus Niskanen, David H. Baker and George Gruber on row 5 of that grid. Then there's Lyndon Swaby, the Canadian, and Diego Jimenez, Matthew Webb, Adam Facciaponti, David Wilson Jr., Andreas Robertson, Thomas Peterson, Enrico Leonhardt, and Stefan Vang make 39 as we get ready for a pace lap here of this Sebring International Raceway. And Cam, there's a lot of things you can talk about with this Sebring track. Yes, it's very bumpy. Yes, you can definitely say that it is very much a case of stay on track or it's game over. But you also have to remember there is not much elevation change at all around here. Former airfield, this one. So effectively, some do make that comparison as an American Silverstone.
In a way, most certainly, but I have to say they've probably been racing here at Sebring just as much as they've been racing at Silverstone, kind of parallel more than compared, but it is certainly one of the most legendary sports car racing circuits I could ever think of is the Sebring International Raceway, and we're going to be seeing a lot of ups and downs as far as the momentum goes, and of course the emotions as well. This track, it's so easy to be having a great day, a great race. You're absolutely in the rhythm, and you perhaps just drop one tire on the left or the right, or just to get a little too close to some of that lap traffic, or get yourself in a bad position with one of those very, very fast GTP cars overtaken, and it can completely throw you for a loop.
It certainly can, and I think a lot of drivers, after what was a very caution-filled Daytona 500 that they had, they'll be looking to try and get some clean racing over these 2 hours, because they know that the moment they come away from Sebring, they're heading up to Bristol for short track racing action. So Cam, how important is it to get a good road result here before you've got that unpredictability of oval coming up?
Well, I mean, there are people who are very comfortable with road racing. There are people who are very comfortable with oval racing. And they need to put the two together, as it were. So that's the challenge of the Major Series. So if you know, obviously, you've say before you went into the Major Series, you raced something like the GTP or the GTO or sports cars beforehand. You know that this is going to be the time to perform, and this is the time to really get your points haul before you go to somewhere that might be quite a bit more unfamiliar, as it were.
And of course, you look all the way down through the season, you've got the likes of the majors, Indy 500, the Nürburgring 2.4 will be straight after that. You've got the likes of Le Mans coming up, Detroit Grand Prix, Spa's 2.4, King's Royal Dirt Action, the Michigan 400, Tony Betthausen 200, Bathurst 500, and the Brazilian Grand Prix to finish in the legendary McLaren MP430. So this will all become that big race to Interlagos, but this will mark a quarter done in the season, there or thereabouts. This is where you start making the early form, and it's from this point onwards you start wondering, okay, this is where I start building up. Can I make a championship push at this stage, or do I have a lot of work to do to get further forward? The pace behind Dave Walsh in the 842 as the iRacing Roof First safety car will pull off onto pit road this time. By 2 hours worth of racing is underway, and Walsh gets a great start here as João Valverde looks to maybe have an attack to the inside at the Million Line Suits All turn number 1. Around the outside tries Kurt Crum in the bombshell car, doesn't quite make that work as they pretty much fall it out single file. Little look in the background as that's going to be the Torque Freak car of Josh Wolf, trying to get positions early, of course, because of where a certain Matthias Magnussen is, but it is clean so far in your GTPs. GTOs just getting underway.
Yeah, and everybody screaming right now into corner number 1 as Buffia looks to have a very close entry into turn 1, whereas Joni Hagner leading it is long on the outside. Everybody screaming right now into that corner number 2 and 3 complex. That's so very well known, and everyone already looks pretty single file, minus David H. Baker in the 33 and Marcus Niskanen in the 47 car. Niskanen, he wants to have a good charge through the field here. You would normally expect to see Niskanen a little further up the field, but they'll get themselves sorted out. Niskanen gets the position over Baker as the GTO midfield looks underway and pretty comfortable. I do see one of the cars with damage, David A. Wilson, the 28. Not sure how he managed that, but the car doesn't look that bad, seeing as he just went to the inside of Thomas Peterson and picked up a position.
Well, there we go. Position made for David A. Wilson Jr. He'll be happy about the way that he's made that one, and he's got to get up to the back of the pack. The rest of the field, though, at the front, starting to make their way on the Ullman Straight for the very first time. The run to Sunset Bend, the corner of 1,004 lines. Which one's the quickest one? Not many people seem to know the answer to that. Christian Rose trying to attack Jean-Francois Arsenault at the moment, just a little bit further down the field. Arsenault's made his way through here on the opening lap. No real opportunities to make this move, but you can see a much tighter line from Arsenault, and he's able to pick up the run on the exit, and maybe a chance into turn number 1 is going to be key, but not quite, I don't think, yet. Everyone just in this feeling out process of the opening 15 minutes or so. What we're going to see, already a second gap at the front of the field. It's about working out yourself into a rhythm here. It's 2 hours. It feels short, but not incredibly short, if you get what I mean, Cam.
Yeah, and not only that, we have to remember that they are going to be having to come in for a pit stop. I presume it's probably going to be just the one at the hour mark. I have to feel, though, as we're looking right now at the 58 and the 73, as they're having their battle. That's Riley Thompson and Christian Chalnier. I'm not necessarily sure if the GTO is going to be able to do it on the one pit stop, and actually I'm not sure if the GTP is going to be able to do it on the one pit stop either. It seems, my memory, you get about 55 minutes on a tank, maybe a little less, so we might even have to see a splash and dash towards the end.
We very well might do. Riley Thompson and Christian Challoner both having a great scrap. Challoner, of course, in the draft as they're going wide is Kieradin Boafia, who will drop 2 positions, maybe a third to Philip Lake, and yes, there is a third that goes after missing his braking point down at the hairpin, so easy to do. Point I was going to say, Christian Challoner has his pro license, of course, and is also one of the few members drafted in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing. He is a driver that many have an eye on, as Riley Thompson in front of him, holding that second position, is doing well. Now, let's not forget here, Challoner's fighting at the pointy end of this championship at the moment after a few bits of races. Dave Walsh has actually lost himself a few positions. He's had himself a moment out on circuit and has dropped from first all the way to 4th. He had the advantage, and all of a sudden Cablet's gone away, and now he's right down the pack.
Yeah, and we'll have to find out exactly what has happened to Mr. Walsh, as that 842. It can happen so very easily. You just get yourself a little loose, a little wide, and that can certainly happen. But Gabriel Roos is now the one, as here's the replay now on our screens, as it looks like Dave Walsh. Oh, you know what? Slowdown penalty. That is what will happen. I was going to say, seeing as nobody was damaged, but yeah, it can happen just like that. But you know what? Walsh did it the right way. In where he pulled over to the inside, and he didn't slow down to stop the car, as it were. He gave the time back over the course of that entire straight, which is, of course, what you really should be doing rather than what most people do, which is jamming on the brakes. But meanwhile, though, he'll be right back on the attack and give himself a nice little challenge here. 3 cars to chase down rather than just driving by himself.
Yes, and that chase is always going to be so very, very important in the way that maybe there's going to be some time lost for Dave Walsh, but he knows that he's got 2 hours to go and make all of that back. Here's a little battle, though. 4 cars behind Travis Henderson in the Grizzly Motorsports machine. Got CQR Club, Christian Rose, Jean-Francois Arsenault, and then championship leader Matthias Magnussen. Let's not forget here, Magnussen is not just fighting here 16th, 15th, 14th, 13th. He's actually fighting 3rd in the second category of class. They score equal points between class. Here's Christian Rose looking down the inside of Henderson here at Sunset Bend with the cloud cover fully over the top. And just like that, through will go Rose and will gain a position up into the 13th spot. So for the moment, it seems that it's about finding one position at a time here, Cam, and this is what drivers have been making here, just those positions at a time when mistakes have been coming in. A lot of slowdown penalties, because one has also come in for Philip Lake last lap, and that cost him time to fall back behind Boafia, and now Neidhart and Gruber to boot.
Yeah, most definitely. And just watching this battle between Travis Henderson and Christian Rose. I'm surprised Rose was able to just absolutely check out, and that has actually allowed Jean-Francois Arsenault to sort of catch up, as well as Matthias Magnussen. And I have to say, nothing for nothing, but I'm looking at the Grizzly car, I squint my eyes, and then I see the Jean-Francois Arsenault CAR Can-Am Racing machine as they're going side by side through the extraordinarily quick left-hander. Then they go into the first of the right-handers. They look, the schemes look very, very similar, Jake. It's a bit like that copy my homework, but just make sure that nobody knows. Just make it different enough.
Different enough, and here's Magnussen with a chance coming off a tower. One spinner, that's Trevor Vrosky, who's gone around on his own at the tower corner. You can't be too aggressive on the exit, just get slightly amount of curb, trying to put the power down as early as possible, and that's going to take him forever and a year for him to get himself around. But the battling still continues right now, as Dave Walsh still stuck behind Kurt Crum. Gabriel Roos at the moment will currently have the championship lead if things stay like this, holding an advantage now of over a second, 1.6 at the front of the field, and really running a very good race at this stage. Behind that, though, if you look at the GTO leader, Joni Hagner, he'll be in for this race and probably this race only. He finds himself at an advantage of about 7-8 tenths of a second at the moment. Thompson missing the apex heading through tower.
Yeah, and I honestly will say, I think Joni Hagner, obviously he is, if you're not familiar with Mr. Joni Hagner, probably one of the fastest drivers to ever really put their behind in one of these Audi 90 GTO machines here in the iRacing service. But not only that, I will say, I do really think Joni likes the challenge of the Major Series. I wouldn't be too surprised if we don't see him a couple of more times, simply due to the fact that I think he likes the challenge, and whilst we kind of, I don't want to say expect, you can never expect something. Well, you can kind of plan on Joni Hagner having a very dominant and strong car here. We get to see him again in the future, as Riley Thompson's just trying to chase him down, but it's really hard when Joni Hagner's running 2/10 at least a lap faster.
Very, very true, and I think Riley Thompson would be very happy with second best at this stage, get his championship back on track. Was very, very strong at the track, Daytona Speedway, and was doing well in the 500 before issues arose, turning his own teammate Dave Walsh in the battle for the lead with about 30 laps to go. So there's always a time and a place here, and maybe Challoner just needs to be a little bit wary about how this is going to work out in the future of this race. Let's look up a little bit further forward though at the moment, because for the time being, got a nice few little scraps, as I just seen George Gruber go straight on when it's come to the hairpin corner. So Gruber has now run himself into an issue. He just completely outbroke himself there. Probably missed his point by about 5 meters or so. Takes a cone for good measure, and he will drop a multitude of positions running west layout the circuit too. He's now behind Marcus Niskanen.
Yeah, and that TFR car looking to, looking now at the mountain ahead, as it were. And for some of these guys, just keeping the car on the track, as Matthew Webb is looking to the inside of Diego Jimenez Hormilia, as he'll look. It'll be the outside here through the double apexed corners, but he'll actually have the position before you get to that very final sector here. So very good pass here, as we're seeing here as we saw the replay of what happened to George Gruber on your screens. But for Matthew Webb, he's picked up that position, and now he's got a pair of and presuming that's a bombshell. That's bombshell paint scheme. Yes, it is. Niskanen is on the inside of his teammate Hormilia, as they are looking to chase down Matthew Webb. Not the best way to do it, going too wide into the final corner. Not
ideal at all, but able to get the position is Niskanen, and now that's going to allow maybe the chance to get aggressive. Here's Philip Lake looking down the inside of Dennis Neidhart here in GTOs, and for the moment, there's Lake just getting a little bit too tight there on the inside. This is allowing the chance to attack off the exit, but much better acceleration there from Lake's going to give him a chance. They stay too wide, so they head through 3 and then into 4 and 5, and well, for the time being, Neidhart's going to lose 1, but there is Kieradine Boafia as well, which is going to be just a little bit of an issue here. Neidhart battles with the big boys and ultimately loses 1 position for his worries to boot as well. So Neidhart drops back in this one to 6th place in category at the moment, but we got some 2-wide battling here because there's Kurt Crum going at it with Dave Walsh on the runs through Big Bend, and they've got traffic to deal with as well. So which way will Walsh go? He's going to back out of it just for the moment because he had no lane with the traffic in front there, Cam. That was David Wilson Jr. having to get by, but Dave Walsh, there was the chance, but ultimately this is what traffic does. It makes itself a nuisance.
Well, more than a nuisance. You have to remember these GTP cars, the very famous Group C, as it were, or GTP as it grew into. These cars, super high downforce, super high amounts of power, whereas compared to the Audi 90, I mean, you've got just a 5-speed heel and toe gearbox. With your 5-cylinder engine, basically no downforce, as you were able to see just how wide the Audi had to go, as Eric Mickey almost ate the rear of Adam Facioponti. But these GTP cars, they just carry so much downforce, so much speed, yeah, somebody has picked up the slowdown. That's
Walsh in 4th position and just about got away with it, I thought, there, heading towards Sunset Bend. That was a really nightmarish second part of the corner. He got all the curb, and then all of a sudden he's got all of no pace coming off the exit, able to hold the position, but look how much time that's been lost here compared to Kurt Crum. It's a lot, because look at where Crum's now starting to battle. He's starting to pick up João Valverde in 2nd position in the 381. He's now trying to dive down a couple of bombshell cars, and let's not forget, that's a bombshell car 3rd in this race in GTP, being a certain Kurt Crum. But now Valverde gets round Niskanen, will now get past Diego Jimenez, but for the moment at least, it's Kurt Crum who is now the man on the move.
Yeah, and Eric Mickey was able to make a maneuver around Dave Walsh, courtesy of David H. Baker. And here comes Dave Walsh again on the inside, going through the very, very tight right-hander. That's corner number 7, as Eric Mickey is now lost that position. He got it because of a lap car of David H. Baker, and you can just see how close in these cars go. And I have to say, Dave Walsh most likely really had to do that maneuver because he sees the teammates are almost tangling, but somebody's gone around.
They were tangling. Actually, there's one GTO vehicle off of the track. That's George Gruber once again, and that was right on the run to Tower. And was that being aggressive, Kurt Crum? He got down the inside. There was no contact between them there, but Gruber was left with nowhere to go on that run, and it is very difficult for a GTO car to assert its dominance and hold the position, but ultimately gets pushed a little bit wide, and runs out of road and finds itself in a bit of grass. That not necessarily the best thing in the world there for Gruber, but he'll have to take it because he's got Facioponti just behind, Andreas Robertson as well, and the next train looking to try and find a way through. Rose, Henderson and Magnussen, the championship leader.
Yeah, as we saw the replays come through, we saw a couple of incidents all seem to happen all at the same time, as, yeah, George Gruber, very wise, very good to not get into that tire barrier. That would have most certainly damaged the front end of that 5-cylinder machine. But good on him, but he'll be able to keep it through. Rip cones, and you can just see how much airborne he was able to get over the curbings, but he'll get himself sorted out and resituated. He has got plenty of time. We have only had 20 minutes, or about 15 minutes of racing, Jay.
We certainly have, and Dave Walsh may want to try and get back at Eric Mickey once again, but no, not going to get that run at all. Sorry, that's Kurt Crum now, and you can see how the GTO's got better power off the exit. Crum gets a turn, and just like that, dumped out of the podium position there. Let's get a replay of this one. Kurt Crum trying to pick a run off the exit. Alenjak left with nowhere to go. But of course, you have to remember, GTP may be quicker, but when it comes to 0 to 60, you have to find that the GTOs have a very good launch.
Well, it's an all-wheel drive system with about 500 horsepower. So a 5-wheel drive system, about 500 horsepower, compared to a rear-wheel drive system, which has about, I would probably say about 9 billion pounds of turbo. That then hits you with a lag. Yeah, the Audi is always going to have a bit of a quick jump off of the corners here. And we were able to see Kurt Crum. He had gotten collected and wrapped around, and he actually is now driving with front nose cone damage as Jamie Rushworth. And the number 03 machine is going to be looking to see if he can maybe capitalize on this, but he'll have to go around a GTO.
Yeah, as Philip Lake has also found himself in a spin, the 99 that's coming out of Le Mans onto the Ullmann, and oh, it was contact with the teammates. Gets together with Alenjak, who tries to take the inside line. It was understeer from Lake, so they both ceremoniously dump each other off. Lake stops just before the tyres, and will look to try and, well, he's definitely got damage because he's taking the grass route home instead of the tarmac one, so that's not going to be ideal at the moment, so we'll continue on his way just for now, but there we are seeing mistakes aplenty starting to come in, especially with that big T word, traffic, becoming a factor.
Yeah, most certainly, and traffic is probably, I have to say, if you want a challenge, it is the GTP series, the Camel GT series as we call it. It is very, very interesting. It's very scary, both to be in the GTP and the GTO machine. I've been on both, but it's been a long while since I hopped in one of these cars, but I can tell you, just by watching, I can tell you right now, folks, this is an extraordinarily challenging dance, because these GTO machines, think of it more like a touring car. Really, it's just a sort of a Group B rally car that they kind of they decided, you know what, let's go sports car racing. This was kind of the next car that Audi built. So you think about that heritage is put into this car. That was about the period of time. And then you get the GTP, one of the first machines that really had some sort of computer-assisted design put into it. Massive turbo, massive amounts of money you have to talk about, Jake. That era of sports car racing is, you can just see how these GTP cars just so quickly get through here, and then off and away on the corner exit with that downforce through Sunset Bend. But it looks to me like Christian Chandelier is not going to have much as far as the rundown here going into one on Riley Thompson. But it is still a good battle, but it is just so interesting having these two cars here, because they are both pushing the envelope of your skill set, as it were, in very unique ways.
They certainly are, as that was Jamie Rushworth and David E. Baker both going by. I believe Jamie Rushworth in the 03 machine has yet to make a start, I think, this season in the major series. I'm just going to get that up on my certain screen. I do believe that he is pretty much starting out this season. A lot of drivers do come into a series like this maybe just a little bit later than others, and I am proven correct at this juncture. So for Jamie Rushworth, nothing to lose at this stage, trying to prove himself at the front of the field. David Baker, though, right up at the pointy end of the championship, was tied leading after picking up a victory in the Daytona 2.4, and so he's looking to try and just consolidate his position over the early goings. He had a great run at Daytona as well, not to get to a victory, which was won, of course, by Dan Marcantonio. But David Baker here, 7th position for the moment. I think he'll take that one to the bank.
Yeah, most certainly. And I've been watching Joshua Wolf trying to recover here, and he is taking very, very assertive lines around this this GTO traffic. to try and get himself through. There's Yoni Hagner, who is still your leader, don't worry. As here comes Joshua Wolf on the inside, and that's going to compromise his line through. As you can hear the turbo, the whistling, that very famous chirp, as he is chasing down Dawson Brock. Joshua Wolf has gotten himself up a couple of positions since his detour, but for the most part, though, he seems to be getting himself back under control.
Yes, but keep an eye on Kurt Crumb's times at the moment. Dawson Brock 51.8, Joshua Wolf 51.1. Look at the time Kurt Crum did last time by 55.8, and you feel most of that is down to damage. And Matthias Magnussen just did a 150.1 that last time by, getting by Henderson, and started to get a little bit stuck at the moment. There is Riley Thompson will be the next one to go by around the outside of Big Ben. There's a superior grunt coming from the prototype, and straight through Magnussen goes. Magnussen's got to start clawing positions one by one. He's not the quickest driver in the field, not by any stretch of the imagination, but he is certainly quicker all the way up to David Baker in 7th position. So he does have that ability to go and chase down positions as and when he needs to, because he does have the pace.
Yeah, most certainly, and hello, Respect Dog, also. Yeah, you're not only being able to see that the outright pace, as it were, but being able to make your smart decisions around lap traffic. As speaking of lap traffic, Travis Henderson almost looking to capitalize on Yoni Hagner having to take the right-hander, which is extraordinarily slow, but the double right-hander comes up. The GTPs are able to clear, and that means Travis Henderson is not able to capitalize on that lap traffic, but he is at least closed in to Matthias Magnussen, that number 4 machine.
And you have to remember, GTO leader right now is going to try and do one thing when it comes to that lap traffic, and that's actually control it. And it's very difficult when you're a slower category of car to control the traffic, but when you're the leader, you've almost got to place your car in a position that says, well, I know that I'm not quicker than you, but I'm in my own race and I am leading my own category, so I have to command that sort of respect to slow off the exit. There is Joshua Wolf, who's going to lose quite a few positions because of that, and I believe it was a spin, and it certainly was. Let's get a replay of it then, brought to you by And Designs, the official graphics partners here at Race Spot TV. He just starts losing it in the mid-speed, trying to put the power down slightly, and then all of a sudden, whee, around you go in the grass, and he's got to get himself back off and going again, struggling a little bit with the traction control, but ultimately off and going now behind Jean-Francois Arsenault.
Yeah, most definitely. You're seeing on board right now, you're playing with the wheel, a big bump. These cars have to be so very stiff to allow the air proper seating on top of the chassis of the car, and that just sent him around. And Joshua Wolf, well, we cursed him. We jinxed him, as we were talking about how he was having a good recovery. But you know what? Now he gets to recover.
That means you just re-jinxed him, so well done, Cap.
That's good. That's good.
That's good, but we've got a 3-car scrap at the moment because Kurt Crum struggles. Does mean he's now fallen behind Travis Henderson. And here's Clifton Naranjo trying to find an opportunity to get by in the 187. And, well, top speed's probably where he's going to do it. Looks to the inside here at Bishop. Not going to quite get there, but position has to be ceded there by Kurt Crum, who really does not have top end to be working with. And I have to say, if he is losing 4 seconds a lap at the moment, 3 seconds to these sorts of drivers, which he is at the moment, I'm wondering why he hasn't come in yet here, Cap.
Well, he might actually be waiting for a period of time to where he can sort of use that splash and dash, as it were. If you had to do a splash, maybe get yourself out to that envelope, and then you can come in and get the crew to get the car all fixed up, which is certainly here in the Majors Series, as you can just see the difference in top speed as Jean-Francois is even able to get to the inside and rather easily make the position and pull away. That just shows you how much air Kurt Crum is losing off of that front nose, and here comes Joshua Wolf. Fingers crossed nothing goes wrong for him this time. But it's one of those situations where he must be...
Mickey's around.
Uh-oh.
So that's his teammate that's just gone round, and that was in a scrap with Mikey Grems, who was in 5th position. And, well, it's Eric Mickey just picking the curb off of the exit of the hairpin and spearing himself to the left. And just like that, you have to remember, Cam, there is that very low ground clearance that those prototypes have, because they really do struggle, as that's going to be something to keep an eye on, as P2 GTO looks like it's going to be just heating up slightly as well. Challoner's back on the rear.
Yeah, Challoner has not only gotten back to the rear, he's gotten by Riley Thompson going into the hairpin. The very tight hairpin, and Riley Thompson looking to almost make a counter as Claude Belval will be arriving on the scene in his GTP machine. But these Audi 90 GTOs, it's a big old back and forth of positioning. They're almost lumbering, as it were. With this all-wheel drive, you're able to really kick the car on corner exit, but you have to throw the weight of the machine around to really get it to do what you need to do. So these moves have to be positioned so very well, and you have to be familiar with not only what your machine is going to do in that position, but the other machines, as Riley Thompson right now isn't probably too happy that GTP has gotten in the way, but hopefully Thompson will be able to get some of the draft up, as I'm noticing Trevor Vorsky it might be carrying some damage on his front nose cone as well. That might just be me, but that number 10 machine, okay.
It's big damage on that front left of his car, so that Grizzly car looks maybe a little bit grisly in terms of pace. That last time by was able to do a 152.6, which isn't the best time in the world, but it is quicker than Claude Belval just in the front, so still able to find maybe a little slither of pace that is very much needed. Matthias Magnussen, for those wondering, is now inside the top 10 and is looking to gain a few more points. So at the moment,
Vavorsky spun. He's took the nick out of one of the GTO machines. Excuse me.
Challoner, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think he hit Challoner coming off the corner exit. Looked to me like it's just carrying too much speed. There's only so much speed these Audis can carry through, and that 73 was going very quickly before an Audi. But yeah, Trevor Vavorsky just carried too much speed in and said hello.
Well, that was more than just a big hello. That was a halo and around that you go. So Vavorsky would not be too best pleased with that. It has given Challoner a gap away from Riley Thompson as the 47 and the 33 start having their own little scrap. This is Marcus Niskanen and David H. Baker out there on track. David H. Baker trying everything in that Grizzly Motorsports car to now deal with George Gruber behind, Lyndon Swaby, as well as the race leader overall, Gabriel Roos. So that's going to be a little bit difficult to traverse here for Roos, as now here's the look to the inside from George Gruber, who's had no love at all when it's come to these prototypes, and he will dive down the inside and get that one working, as Baker will now cede to the leader in the race overall. But Gruber at the moment determined now not to let anyone through on that outside. His next challenge, though, in the Talk Freak machine is Marcus Niskanen's 47.
Yeah, and Marcus Niskanen is carrying some pretty significant front-end damage in his Audi, so that's going to be an even bigger brick wall to go through the air. So for Niskanen, he's going to have George Gruber on his rear, and he's probably going to catch him here on this straight heading towards Sunset Bend, simply because of the aero difference. One shaped a bit more like a bullet, the other one shaped not so bullety anymore, but there is a GTP car of João Valverde coming in, as actually Valverde will go around the outside. That's where Joshua Wolf had his spin, but the car's going to plan itself. He'll be all right, and he'll actually get on by without causing an issue.
Kurt Crummins just come out of pit road. He's made his stop, so that's probably a telling point on how long you can go. So a 30 minutes-ish into this race, it is deciding to get in on the lane. So maybe that's what we're seeing here, alternative strategy coming fully into play, as João Valverde did just make his way by the pair that were just racing it along. But we do still have some good battles in this field. Haven't paid too much attention to this. Here's John Roberts in the 486. He's got Uldis Puteklis just in front of him, but there's Christian Rose trying to fight her way back through the field with an opportunity to go down the inside now as John Roberts runs incredibly wide through the mid part of the corner. Rose will pick up a much better run off the exit, and John Roberts is just going to cede to one side, and the Boost Ted machine will fall behind the CQR Club car as that is another position gained. Crucially, as that's Putecalis getting a big slide and a big spin to boot.
Yeah, and the car has just now arrived to a stop as he'll do it in an excellent spin turn, and promptly is surrounded by a not so excellent spin turn. But so you'll see here, I think he probably just had to decelerate, and once he decelerated, the arrow just went off the suspension. You can actually hold with a replay here because this is what's going to happen. He's going to start going after that really perfect spin turn, and then actually do damage to the car by trying to get away. Very unfortunate because, well, we had it recovered, but it just wasn't in the cards, I suppose. But for Ildis Putecalis, he's getting away, and he'll have to now deal with contend with Cloud Belval in the 56 machine.
Certainly will, and that's not what he would have been wanting in the early goings of this one. Just over a quarter's distance into this 2-hour race that we've got at the moment, and right in front actually of Marcus Niskanen is Diego Jimenez in his little world, in his battle. 2:03.8 that last time by, lost 1.4 seconds to Marcus Niskanen, 1.6 to George Gruber. So really, backwards is the way the 941 may be looking at this stage, because there is a lot that maybe he doesn't want to be dealing with right now.
Yeah, and I'm actually quite surprised. I thought Niskanen was going to be going backwards, but no, the car seems to be dealing with the damage no problem, as Jamie Rushworth has had a bit of a slide. Hasn't gone off the track or anything like that, but he had a bit of a slide that's allowed David E. Baker to get away here as they're heading underneath the Budweiser Bridge, going into the extraordinarily tight right-hander with that sort of left turn exit. Probably one of the most famous corners at the Sebring International Raceway, as David Baker now gets himself right on through. There's the headlights as Jamie Rushworth is just able to clear these cars, and it is so very dangerous and difficult to do, Jake, when you're trying to figure out how you're going to be getting around these cars, because they really are racing around each other, and it's not like dangerous as in the drivers are dangerous. It's just really difficult to navigate these old cars when they start racing with each other.
But Gruber's one of the best. He's already made way past Niskanen, and he's all over Diego Jimenez into the Le Mans chicane coming up. So now this right, left, right comes up, and it's all about maximising the track as much as possible. You can go over that white line, all four wheels, but you've got to make sure that you get a good run through the corner, and Gruber does pick it up off the exit. Now will get tow, and is really benefiting here. Moves hard to the inside to make this one work, and is going to find himself at Sunset Bend with track advantage going into that section, and move scored complete here at Sunset. Just allowing, though, Marcus Niskanen maybe the half chance of making a way through, but a good run off the exit from Diego Jimenez is going to stop any opportunity of that potentially into turn number one. Slight little defensive look, maybe even offensive down the inside. It's going to have to back out of that. Bombshell trying to go around the outside. That is Eric Mickey's going to try and thread the needle, does so and goes by. So there we see straight up two positions in one lap. I think that's George Gruber saying game on right now, with Matthew Webb next up on track.
Yeah, and he's going to really be looking to close in here. He did actually go faster despite making those two positions. He did go faster last lap than Matthew Webb, as they are now whistling through the downshifts with Eric Mickey just up ahead, as he will scream away in his Nissan GTP. It's not that far up the track to Matthew Webb, and then that will get you to be about 7th position, I would say. Yep, that's what he's running right now, Matthew Webb is. Meanwhile, I have to say your leaders still no issues for Yoni Hagner and no issues for Gabriel Roos.
No issues at all for the pair of them. That gap has been fluctuating up and down with the traffic. It was 4.3 seconds last time by, because Gabriel Roos lost 1.1 on that last run, but he gathers it back up with a 150.0. But João Valverde takes another half a second out of the clock because he's now done a 149.5. And Valverde from Club Iberia is finding himself the great opportunity to go after Gabriel Roos and start putting a cat among the pigeons here in what will be his first run, I do believe, here in Pack Majors.
Yeah, and kind of just to kind of paint a picture here, with this major series, any driver can race in any of the 4 slots as it is, Jake, but people do have their home region, as it were. So that's probably one of the nice things, that you can schedule yourself out. Now, this is the European split, but there are quite a couple of other splits for this major series this weekend.
Yep, there are, of course, there's the international split that went on yesterday. You've got the Pacific split, which will be going on a little bit later on today. And let's not forget, here on Racebot TV, Skip Bar 2K World Cup presented by DES Simulations is going oval bound. Join myself and Will Vincent for action that will be going on there. But Jamie Rushworth in the 03 now starting to lose ground here to David E. Baker in the battle for 6th position. That one all because of traffic, and it's continuously being that accordion effect. Gap comes out, gap comes back down again, and this is what drivers have to be a little bit cautious about. A gap that goes out can be clawed back around here, especially with traffic that can play a hand.
Yeah, one singular GTO machine can claw you back a significant amount of time. Something we have kind of failed to mention, as it were, is simply the weather and the time. In quote-unquote sim time, it's 11 o'clock in the afternoon. It's, of course, about 12:30, 12:40 here in the East Standard Time. But the big thing is that the temperatures are very reasonable. It's 76 degrees Fahrenheit, 99 degrees on the track, with a very negligible amount of wind as Jamie Rushworth moves to the inside and easily clears one of the GTO machines. And Jake, I don't know what those temperatures mean in less than perfect measurements of temperature as you have. But as you can actually see, there's some cloud cover has moved in. And that in itself is going to change the track pretty significantly.
It certainly will. Well, if British have wrong incrementation of temperature, then surely...
no sense, yeah.
Yep, then 11 o'clock in the afternoon would be a very weird implementation of time in New York terms, but I'll brush by it. Oh, you did just say 11 o'clock in the afternoon.
11 o'clock's the afternoon.
11 o'clock's the morning.
McDonald's changes breakfast at 10 o'clock. Therefore, breakfast officially ends at 10. No question.
Right. Okay.
Just saying. We have to base our entire system of time on fast food restaurants, okay? That's how we do things in America.
Okay. I'll take your word for it for the moment. So, for the time being, at least, battling continues. João Valverde had pulled the gap down to just 3.1 seconds as the 32 now starts to have its own little scrap. This is Matthew Webb under pressure because George Gruber's down the inside when it comes to Cunningham Corner and gets the position done as well, as Marcus Niskanen has to run incredibly slowly to allow Roberts and Rose the opportunity to fly on by, and Gruber takes a massive wide line to allow one driver through, that one being Dawson Brock, who's now under pressure, and everything is suddenly about do not tag anyone. John Roberts gets a tag, and just like that, don't get a tag. It was getting a little bit dicey, and Matthew Webb was left with nowhere to go at Bishop.
Yeah, and Matthew Webb really didn't have anywhere to go. He had taken, you do the slowdown. If you slow it down right here, you go, well, a little bit too late. But if you actually get a more aerial look at that, you can see Matthew Webb basically had all 4 tires off of the racetrack. At that point, there was really nothing he could do. He was on the curbing, but unfortunate for John Robert. Ooh, here we go. This is going to be a great view. You'll see the car was completely off of the track. There's really nowhere else for him to go, and John Roberts, I think, It's not that he wasn't giving enough room. I think he really had just thought that he had cleared enough space.
And just like that, traffic does cause a couple of issues here and there. Matthias Magnussen, though, starts to feel the pressure here because Clifton Naranjo has just been staying behind him for the last little section. This is 9th and 10th on the road here at the moment, and they've got traffic to get by, and that's Dennis Neidhart that they've got to find a way by, and it's the long way around to go through there for Matthias Magnussen. A little bit easier, I think, for Naranjo, who has to compromise his line slide, though from Magnussen is going to bring Clifton back in when it comes to the next little section. And this is what you have to do. You've got to minimize all the little mistakes and not make any big mistakes at all. So for the moment, Magnussen's gained 7 positions over this race. Naranjo up 9, but they are battling it out pretty solidly, it has to be said, for this one, as the gap to the leader has come down, is now just 2.2.
Yeah, most definitely. And I will say also Jamie Rushworth has moved up quite a couple of positions. He's moved up 4 positions. And I mean, you look at the 06 machine of David E. Baker. I mean, he has moved up I mean, significantly. I mean, he started in 6th position, and now he's currently running in 6th position. I mean, quite impressive as the number 58 machine is coming to pit. Riley Thompson, and actually I'm seeing a ton of smoke. Did he pop the engine going through Sunset Bend?
Uh-oh. That does not look good at all for Riley Thompson.
Blew the engine in pit lane.
Oh, wow. So there's what we see, an engine blow up in pit road. Does have a fast repair, remember, in this series, so we'll be able to get that one back out and going again, but that was not part of the script to blow the engine up. Off and away off pit road does the TDR car go, but that there for Riley Thompson would have not been part of the script. He will fall behind Marcus Niskanen out on track, but will stay ahead of Diego Jimenez after his pit stop is completed. So little bit dicey, and he will have no repairs for the rest of this event.
Yeah, definitely. So that is it as far as getting that car back out and battle ready, as it were, which means that if a GTP takes a tag out of you or something happens, that's going to be game over. But I'm really surprised. It's not like it was he broke the engine going into pit lane or anything like that, where you would expect a high rev load on the engine, but it was kind of coasting into pit lane as we'll look at the battle between the 32 and the 47.
Certainly will. Marcus Niskanen is through on Matthew Webb. Webb, maybe a chance to fight back at Cunningham, goes deep on the brakes on the inside. Wide line left there by Niskanen, giving himself a margin, but he does manage to hold off and gain that position just for the moment as they continue to have their scrap. Gap for the race leaders is down to just 1.6 and less at the moment. Gabriel Roos is being caught, but let's not also forget this one here, Cam. There's Dave Walsh as well in 3rd position. He was 6 seconds back about 20 minutes ago. He's got his gap to the leader halved over that stint.
Yeah, we have to remember that Dave Walsh was, in fact, the leader up at one point until he had gotten a slowdown penalty. He's actually gotten 2 so far this event, as Niskanen is able to basically officially clear. Nope, never mind, as Matthew Webb is able to get by through the gears easier. Matthew Webb is now on the inside in that CQR Club machine. He'll almost nip the inside wall, and this is actually going to allow, battling is going to allow Riley Thompson to arrive on the scene, and Riley Thompson is going to want to start his climb back to where he was, as Dawson Brack is on pit lane in GTP, one of the first take-ins for the GTP machines, but I have a feeling they're going to be coming into pit, those behemoths, fairly soon. I think it's going to be about a 50-minute stint length, a 45 minutes to 50 minutes, so Dawson Brock might be just coming in a little early.
And all of this battling that we're seeing here, Riley Thompson is getting held up. It's going to back him back into Kieradin Boafia, who was maybe quite a long way back in terms of where he is. But look at how Thompson's trying to look every which way. And the prototype behind's trying to find a way through. And really, Trevor Vorosky's going, okay, give me a lane, give me a lane, give me a lane. And on the brakes, he finally gets 1 position. But let's not forget, off of this corner, it's advantage GTOs. And you can see that big burst of power there coming from a certain Matthew Webb. Riley Thompson all of a sudden still cannot find a way through, and it has allowed Marcus Niskanen to pull about 0.8 of a second. Thompson dives big and locks up as well to boot, and that is frustration personified.
Yeah, definitely, and that'll toast the tires too. But Kurt Crum is going to be getting around there on the inside, and that actually is taking the line away from Riley Thompson, and he'll have to do a four-wheel drive drift to get himself back under. So Riley Thompson's going to have to get his car back underneath him here. Sort of reorient yourself, get yourself recalibrated to the machine, and just kind of calm it down. Now, for all we know, Riley is calm as a cucumber, and it just hasn't had it. And actually, Matthew Webb has come out from stage left and absolutely clobbered him. What on earth has happened there? That is Matthew Webb getting a bit from early on from Kurt Crum.
Wow, so let's just get a replay of this, see exactly what has just happened. And well, I didn't quite see the first one, but you can see he's got a long way to go, and he's just trying to join back on circuit, and he gets the 58, and that is clumsy at best there from Matthew Webb. So he gets himself absolutely speared off to the left-hand side. I wonder if he had rear damage as well to boot as well. He comes over the grass, and I think he's looking for the easiest line in, and Thompson just gets absolutely speared. And I have to say, it looks a lot worse than I think it actually is there. Thompson's a bystander for Webb not thinking straight.
About his thinking straight, if you actually look, there is the difference between the concrete and the grass is a bit of a curve, a gap, as it were, because Matthew Webb's machine actually launched, I think, all four tires in the air, and then once it landed, it veered to the right because he was actually looking to rejoin far outside where you track, and then once he landed, the car immediately speared to the right, so it looks clumsy, but I don't think Webb really had much control of that machine once it went airborne, which I guess when you no longer have contact with the surface of the earth, you tend to not have control of your machine, but you know, hey.
But hey, indeed, they often say that Formula One vehicles are effectively ground aeroplanes and they work in reverse. But for the moment, it's all about these GTPs because 1, 2, and 3 are in the same postcode as each other. They're in the same zip code. And for the moment, Walsh and Valverde find themselves with Gabriel Roos right in front, and Roos now has to be very, very cautious about the way he takes this next section of road right on the pit stop window. We find ourselves, Jamie Rushworth has come in over the last lap or so. Gabriel Roos, race leader, dives in. Valverde stays out, but Walsh is going to follow.
Yeah, he wants to get himself situated and resorted out, and here they come. Mikey Grens is going to be coming in. He's running in the 4th position. Haven't really had much time to talk about Mikey, but he is doing a fair race. As already Francois has come into pit lane, and he's going to be taking off as your leaders will have passed him, going past the iRacing Safety First Pace car. David Baker will come into pit lane, and I have a feeling the rest are going to be coming in as Riley Thompson has exited. So I'm not sure what's happened to Riley Thompson, but I think he went back to pit lane and they couldn't repair it.
Well, they couldn't. He used his fast repair, remember, because of the engine blow up as almost everyone comes in now. David E. Baker's decided it's time to get in on the lane. Eric Mickey now hits the lane. The only one who's stayed out really and has gone longer than anyone else onto a 27th lap here is João Valverde, and this is going to be key come the end of this event camp, because what he's able to do is save more fuel than Gabriel Roos and Dave Walsh is. If he can go longer than everyone else, he's spending less time on that final stop down on the lane.
Yeah, and that's gallons per second there, as Joshua Wolf and Clifton Naranjo, gallons per second. No, that's gallons of fuel that he's going to save, that is going to save him seconds in the lane as the cars are looking to get away here. I don't believe, everyone should be taking tires because you can do all that at the same time, so no point in not getting tires. And I would never want to run one of these cars without tires anyways. But looks to me like everyone's getting themselves all sorted and situated, and they're off and away. Eric Mickey's off and away. Josh Wolf shouldn't be following too far behind as a couple of other GPs are coming in.
Yeah, and one of them is the race leader, and that's João Valverde. So one lap longer when it comes to the stint, and just look at where they are situated coming out on circuit. So for the moment at least, we got ourselves some good work going in, as just keeping an eye on your leaders right now. There's one vehicle off right now, and that is Stefan Wang, who has found himself off of the circuit just behind Mikey Grems, and Mikey Grems almost had Wang in the rear of him, but just managed to avoid it for the moment. So for the time being, it seems that he survived, but at what cost? David H. Baker going by.
Yeah, and it's so easy to have that happen. There's really only so much you can do, as the 85 machine getting himself sorted out, resituated here, started in 39th, running in 34th right now, but here comes Christian Chalnier, wants to get around the outside, and there's David E. Baker, as they will say, hello, how you doing? The Kinetic Racing kinetically going into the rear of that 85 machine, and here we go, 3 wide, as the GTP car goes all the way on the inside. David Baker clears him.
Yes, and side by side for the lead as Dave Walsh gets João Valverde out of the pits. He short-filled his way by, I think, on Gabriel Roos, who really did not have the best pit stop window and has dropped back to third, but it is now Dave Walsh in control. João Valverde now in second position, and that is really, really big for Dave Walsh. He's back in control of his own destiny.
Yeah, and I think that might have just been that since Dave Welsh came in a lap earlier, his tires are a little bit warmer. He was able to basically take turn 1 at the full speed the GTP cars do, whereas Zhao was obviously rejoining, and that right there resulted in him being able to get that inside line, and he has now gotten the position. He's got slightly warmer tires, so he really needs to use that while he can to see if he can build a gap before Zhao's car comes in on its own after the pit stop.
Yep, very, very telling. So João Valverde is probably actually better placed, you could say here, Cam, because while he isn't leading this event, he's in second and he's able to do that magical thing when it comes to endurance-style races, and that is save a little bit of fuel to give that advantage. But crucially, he's got to do one big thing, and that's stay within that 1 second window of Dave Walsh to pick up that toe and to be able to save fuel by braking a little bit earlier and letting off that throttle a little bit easier here out on circuit.
Yeah, most definitely, and maybe not letting the revs get up as high when you're starting to shift gears, as Dave Walsh goes to the inside of Philip Lake. Who hasn't been having the day that he wants to have. Philip Lake is one of the fast drivers in the GTO division, both in the iRacing official series and obviously here as well. But he was dropped down after that earlier incident that he had. But for João Valverde, as we get the lap times coming in across right now, it's going to be Dave Walsh was able to run a 1:48.6 compared to João Valverde's pit stop, which was his outlap was 2:40.744, which is important because if you actually look at the difference of Dave Walsh's, and yeah, it was 6/10. They both did 2:40, but it was a 0.6 versus a 0.7, and they're 0.1 versus a 0.7, which is 0.6. Hey, math.
Yes, we can do math here at RaceSpot TV. We're one of the few commentator duos who can, but Valverde able to stay in this one and keep himself pretty much in line with the way that this race is going. Top 3 at the moment then in your GTO field is Joni Hagner, Christian Schallner and Dennis Neidhart now in 3rd position, who's going to find himself almost in contact with a lap down Matthew Webb. So that one very nearly going the wrong way, but very firmly we're in a pit stop window, because in on pit road is the 740 machine, and that is Kieradin Boafia, who I think has come in on his own accord to make his first pit stop, potentially, unless he's run himself into issues. It looks like he's been down on pit road for a very, very long time, so I think he may have run himself into issues here, Cam.
Yeah, most definitely. We'll have to see if we can find out whereabouts that has happened, as Dave Walsh and João Valverde are getting ready to go past the start-finish line one more time. I have to say, between Dave Walsh and João, it may have gone by. It's 6/10 still, so Dave Walsh wasn't able to capitalize with the tire difference to pull say a massive gap or something like that, but 6/10 is 6/10, Jake, and around the Sebring circuit, that can really change your racing as it is. You've got just enough air off of your front from the car in front of you to mess with you, but really not enough to pull yourself in, as it were, through the draft.
I have no idea what's happened to Keradin Boafia, but I think it's in a form of technical at the moment here, Cam. He came off the Cunningham corner, and he just had no bite when he left. He just had no throttle, and I think he may have just lost his throttle pedal completely here in this one, and that's why we're seeing him out of the event. So he's not found himself back out on circuit once again, and I think that it's going to have to be a long, hard reset before he gets himself going, but it is a shame for someone who has so much talent in the GTO field. Battle, though, out on track is for 9th position at the moment, because Matthias Magnussen has just lost the position to Eric Mickey here in this little scrap in GTP, and this is crucial here for Matthias Magnussen. I'm not sure that the Nissan is his strongest vehicle, so what he'll be using this event as here, Cam, is damage limitation.
Yeah, most definitely, and damage limitation is important, as well as Dave Walsh almost didn't have damage limitation, as he almost ate the rear end of George Gruber's machine. Yeah, very unfortunate that the gas pedal of Boafia's machine has gone MIA. You need to start looking around for that if you've seen it. I'm sure he'll be interested to find out where it has gone off to. We saw the replay. You could just see the revs die off, and really not much wanting to go as far as the vehicle. I almost wonder if maybe something happened with the shifter. For Dave Walsh and João Valverde, we're going to have to keep our eyes on this. I know we want to look at around the rest of the track, but these guys, they just seem to be closing in now. Even though it's 7/10 at the start-finish line for watching Matthias Magnussen, he's closed right on in, which I believe that's Eric Mickey, as they come through the start-finish line one more time, as I believe some of the GTO cars had started coming in for their pit service.
They have. George Gruber was one of them who's dived down in and made that stop. So they are going around 55 minutes here on a stint. Challoner has decided that he wants to stay out on track, and we have seen the likes of Dennis Neidhart potentially next to try and come in on the lane, or has just come in actually on the lane. There's Robert Lenzajak there in 4th position as well. So I think a lot of drivers right now are just starting to think about what time is the right time to come onto the lane. If they can stretch it out to an hour, they will be able to go and do this event in one full stop. You have to remember as well here, Cam, that they had to do a full pace lap as well at about 70 kilometers an hour. So that's going to mean that they are actually going to be going slightly longer in that second stint than they are in the first.
That's correct, and we always have to remember that as far as the time goes, we already had this conversation, Jake, it's the afternoon. I will say somebody is off the track, and that's Matthew Webb, and the car is just parked there, the number 32 machine. Not quite sure what he has to do. He's jangling through the gears maybe or something. No, he's going to have to pull the car off and into the infield here. What has happened to Matthew Webb as he comes in through the corner here? Doesn't look like anything too out of the ordinary.
That's
you can hear him.
That has completely seized up there for Matthew Webb, and that it has to be technical. There's no other way that you can see that. You don't have something seized up. It's almost like the brake pedal come in. Let's listen in. Yeah, the revs just go straight down, straight down, straight down, and he just pulls it off to one side. I think that he's had himself an issue and he is out of the event, because I think the pedals have just completely gone as Robert Lenzajak comes off of pit road after his pit stop. That is a massive, massive thing for Matthew Webb. He will not be happy at the way that his race has ended, but just like that, race over.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate. That's happened. That's befallen him. As you're able to see the replay and hear the revs kind of just die off there. I believe that might have been Boyfia in the YouTube chat that I see. I squinted my little eyeballs. My clutch pedal got stuck on full gas. I can imagine having the pedals do angry pedally things. I've been there, Jake. You haven't. You've never used pedals in your life, and as far as your sim racing career, but maybe Hugo has. I certainly have had those issues crop up, but either way, I will say, getting to the action back on the racing track, Dave Walsh, your leader, has the Adam Fasciaponte machine that he's gotten by, and that's allowed Jal Valverde to get closer. But I will say, I do see that there are some lapped GTP cars, which can certainly cause some issues.
They certainly can, and they certainly do, because same class traffic is always the worst kind of traffic to get by, and now Dave Walsh has a little bit more to deal with, the likes of Dennis Neidhart, and this time by is going to be really crucial about getting down onto the lane, because I think those like Joni Hagner are due onto the lane this time by as Hagner makes his way through the right of the final corner, Sunset Bend, to end the lap, and he is really just trying to rag on the exit, and he goes really narrow off of that line, and he will dive down onto the lane just behind David Wilson Jr., who is almost a lap down on him. Oh, hello. There's Gruber having a few issues as Chaloner dives down onto the lane. So an hour made then for a lot of drivers in GTO, as Gabriel Roos from third position has found himself spun around, which was not part of the plan, and it was a big incident, and it was with, I believe, Fasciaponte.
Yeah, it was an incident, as we've been seeing the replay here. Went to the inside, and he then spun after they made contact. They kind of insisted on each other's position, as you can see here, and then Gabriel Roos not happy about it. Let the pedal fly out, and then the rear flew out as Joni Hagner is out on pit lane, and his car is quite comfortably now in his pit stall as they're going to be getting tires and the fuel, and they're going to get themselves out as the GTO field seems to be coming in.
Well, as late as they possibly can. Out will come David Wilson Jr. to finish his stop. Hagner will come out just behind. It'll be a little wait before Chaloner comes out, and then a little longer wait for Dennis Neidhart. And this is the front of the field, essentially, in GTO. Hagner's had no issues in the Glacier Racing machine, has been pulling away from this one. Chaloner in second will be very happy with the way that he's been driving, well within his limits, and big championship points will go to him if he can stay in that second position. But once again, that gap at the front of the field closed down to just half a second, but again has opened out again, out on track, which is not the plan at all in the course of this one. So for the time being at least, it seems that João Valverde is now starting to drop back, as is the ebbs and flows of the racing. Mikey Graham's now in third position after everything that has happened. So Mikey, from 8th position on the grid, very quietly, just through consistency, is now up on the podium cap.
Yeah, absolutely, and he is a couple of seconds ahead of Gabriel Roos, and that's only going to get further after Roos has had his relatively large incident. But Pete Herod, I'm sure, will want to see if he can maybe close in on the gap of Gabriel Roos, as he's only a couple of seconds behind. We still have a lot of these cars really all right up with each other. They're all about maybe 2 to 3 seconds ahead, 2 to 3 seconds behind each other, and that is really a great thing to see after about an hour of racing.
Yes, and they all have 1 hour more left to go in terms of the way that this race is going to pan out for them, and they are really, really flying about here at the moment. Next up for Eric Mickey, though, in 9th position here, after getting past Matthias Magnusson, will be his teammate in the 777, Kurt Crum, who's actually done very well to get back to 8th position after making the early pit stop here in this one. So expect Crum to come in probably in the next 15 minutes or so here, Cam, and then he'll try and run that stint all the way to the very end.
Which it'll be interesting to see just how much of a jump he will get towards the end of it, as Crum, of course, had to come in to get his car repaired, as I imagine he's going to, at the very least, jump up a couple of positions. It's all determining on if he is going to be able to capitalize on, or was able to capitalize when he had that fresh car or not.
Yes, and it's all about these battles as Gabriel Roos is trying to claw back in Mikey Grems and has done over the course of this lap. Let's go on board with that number 14 kinetic racing car, because this is RaceSpot TV fan immersion. Roos chasing Grems. Mikey is under pressure. Here comes Gabriel Roos thinking about turn one, but not quite. finding the chance that was needed there. Had a good run actually coming out of Ullman, but had no real chance into Sunset Bend. So now pick apart another move and see if you can get it. Next up in front will be lap traffic of same class. All this Putekalit in the 666, the Devil's car, just in front. We are in hour 2 of 2 here at Sebring for what is probably the final run of Sebring this week. But of course, we've still got oval action happening, of course, in the Skip Barber 2K World Cup, presented by DES Simulations. Make sure that you check that out. But Gabriel Roos here under pressure. Gabriel Roos applying that pressure, sorry. Mikey Graham's at the moment holding off well, but again, 2 more bits of traffic. Alenza Jacques and Thatcher Ponte both needing to get by here, Cam.
Yeah, most definitely. And I mean, it's been one of those things we were able to watch the great onboard footage as you have both of these GTO cars that are going to cause issues. As you can already see, they're causing a bit of issues as Mikey Brems goes to the inside of Rob Olenek, I believe, as Gabriel Roos has to take a super wide line. Putekalis is not taking that wide line, so you can see why Roos was able to get so much of a better exit, and Mikey Brems was just able to kind of pedal away here in that 3rd position.
Yes, and that 3rd position is doing well, as Pete Harrod, though, has run himself into an issue just behind. He's gone around, coming out of the Le Mans section, and it was just catching the curb, unsettling the aerodynamics there of the vehicle. The balance was not there anymore, and as such, Harrod goes around for a lovely 360 before getting back going again. The cost of which, though, is 1 position gone to David E. Baker.
Yeah, David E. Baker, he's been slowly moving his way. He's been having a very quiet race. Yes, I poked fun earlier that he was running in 6th, and he's still in 6th, well, letting me up to 5th. But the big thing is that his car is clean. He has kept himself nice and steady. He has got 3 seconds now ahead of Pete Harrod, but he had 6 seconds over Jamie Rushworth. So for David E. Baker, he's having a fine day here in the Florida sun, as the sun has come back out and the track temperature has jumped back on up. It is now 106 degree on the track temperature compared to 97 when the clouds were out.
Yes, and that has been very, very telling. Thomas Pettersson, though, in his battle with Enrico Leonhardt. This one a little bit down the order. This is 31st and also 32nd out on track. They've been having a race on their own at the moment. It's 41 degrees C. The track now finds itself, it's officially toasty here at 11:36, and it will keep getting hotter and hotter for the next 2 hours or so's worth of in-sim time, but track time. This track is going to finish scorchingly hot, but the 7 still holding position at the moment. Leonhardt not quite in a position to attack this one and to make the move just yet. Just still needs to wait for that right time to strike, and at the moment, it's not yet.
Yeah, and I will say, looking at that car, that is a very nice paint scheme. If you can look at the roof of that number 76 machine of Enrico Leonhardt, you're able to see it does actually say on it the 2 hours of Sebring.
Of Sebring? Oh, they forgot the S.
There's a fancy road logo that's it's like a little switchback, but that's in white, and then it just says Sebring.
Oh, so it's Sebring, the raceway that he's racing at the moment. Doesn't matter though. Gabriel Roos is back up into 3rd position, has found a way past Mikey Grems, and he did that last lap around. So good move from Gabriel Roos. Mikey's got nothing left to really fight back with. He's just got to be a little bit worried about the pace of David E. Baker at the moment, because the last time by was a 50.7 for Mikey Grems, for David E. Baker a 50.2, but catching both of them back up will be Pete Harrod, 49.9, bit between the teeth, as Harrod, the reigning champion, mind you, here in the Euro Split, is still searching for consistent points.
Yeah, and Joshua Wolf has just taken a bite out of Joni Hagner's machine, going down the long straight towards Sunset Bend as Joni Hagner was having to work around Lyndon Swabby, who is GTO lap traffic for the GTO race leader. Joshua Wolf has picked up some damage for the right front of his machine. I believe Joni Hagner's machine is fine, but what that's going to mean, is that João Valverde is going to have to get around Joshua Wolf, whom already has not been having the best day. He's the first car one lap down, Jake.
He is the first car one lap down, and he is also someone who was third in the championship coming into this event. So this is one that he will chalk down to, okay, let's put this in the experience bank and we will go look at this another day going to Bristol. So for Joshua Wolf, this was not part of the script as Valverde gets too aggressive down the inside, and there's a spin, and Valverde now will probably get in a little bit of trouble after this one. That was not part of the script, and that was far too aggressive from someone who is second in the race and who had a 27-second lead over the driver in third.
I really don't know what he was expecting there, unless maybe he overdid it on the brakes and then he had to commit to it. You know, that does happen sometimes. But I will say Josh was always going to come across. That was the line that he was going to take, and you can see here just how fast he's able to catch up. But you can see the brake lights clear as day. And yeah, I think maybe perhaps he entered the corner with a little bit too much speed. I don't really think he wanted to take it too wide. But once that became the decision, he had to go with it. And for Joshua Wolf, well, the time for looking at your mirror has already passed. So that's very unfortunate for Joshua Wolf. Nothing he could have done there.
No, nothing at all, and as such, he drops a little bit of time, which was not what he was wanting. And of course, Valverde drops time to Dave Walsh. That gap was 5.1. It's now up to 8 seconds now at the front of the field, and Dave Walsh will be incredibly happy about the way that he is pulling away in terms of this race. And not many people are in a position to really stop him at this point in time, but it is worth saying that the GTO field is really spread out at the moment. Joni Hagner holds himself probably about a 10-second advantage over Christian Schallner. Dennis Neidhart probably a further 30 seconds back. Robert Lenzijak a good 8 seconds back of that. And George Gruber another 20. David H. Baker finds himself another 5. You're really struggling to find a very close battle in this category. You have to look all the way back to Andreas Robertson versus Diego Jimenez right now, 28th and 29th overall out on track, and they are split by just over a second at the moment here, Cam, and Robertson is trying everything to pull himself back in over this one. 333 total downforce against Bombshell.
Yeah, and you will see these team names over and over again over the course of the major series. Whether it's Bombshell, whether it's Grizzly, whether it's this Total Downforce Racing team, or Kinetic Racing, there are a lot of teams that you'll be seeing here in the major series repeatedly again and again and again. And so it's not just, Jake, that you have the one-trick ponies, as it were, coming in and racing, but you also have this great constructor, as it's called, battle between all these different teams and all the different races and events. As there's a Torque Freak racing car on the way, all the way on the outside, as I believe. Is that Joshua? Yes, it is. So Wolf way on the outside, where he had his earlier spin, so he knows that he has to do some dancing to see if he can get some speed. But it's a great series, Jake, not just because we get to see interesting combinations like the Kendall series here at Sebring, but we also get to see these teams going at each other again and again and again as the season goes on.
I've just noticed a big dent in the front of Christian Schallner's car. It's Audi at the moment, and that happened at Cunningham Corner along with Mikey Grems. So this was a lap traffic incident which happened about a minute and a half ago, and I wonder if we are able to get a replay back about a minute and a half's worth of this one. So this is what's going to be happening here with Christian Schallner. We've got this one maybe a little bit further behind than maybe that's needed. So let's stay with this one just for a little bit. This is Christian Schallner. He'll be making his way through Big Bend at the moment, and then the next section of track will be that hairpin. So through will go 1, which is going to be a very easy pass there by Gabriel Roos, his own teammate. That would have been coordinated with their channels that they have, but it's next up coming here. This is Fangio here, this right followed by the left, but it's here at Cunningham where the issue happens. So here's Mikey Grems looking to try and go down to the inside. He manages to make it, but on the exit there's the 73. He gets a little bit of a bump, I think, at some stage, and then that's not going to be ideal. Let's just look at Tower to see if there's anything else that has come up from that. And by the looks of things, all okay. So that's very, very interesting there. I thought there was maybe a little bit of contact, but there is certainly a bump that I can see from Christian Schallner's perspective, and he's able to go through. So my mistake there, ladies and gentlemen, a little bit of a phantom incident that we have just seen, but Lyndon Swaby's wasn't. He's just gone off the circuit and ploughed hard into the wall, running towards Tower, and that was contact with John Roberts as he was battling Uldis Butekalis out on track. Bang! Contact with Swaby. He goes around once, goes around twice, and he smacks hard into tyres.
Yeah, most definitely, and there we go, as you're able to see the incident, the back half of it as that boost head machine of John Roberts. Here's the replay, yeah, just coming off the corner there, it was John Roberts and Puteklis going through, as this is, I believe, quite a ways too far back, I will suggest, as this was, oh, okay, we were just in the, it was just before the final corners, but meanwhile, yeah, that's going to be a quite major incident for Lyndon Swaby. I think he might have some steering damage up on that front, those front wheels. There you go. That's where the incident has unfolded, where those giant RVs are.
Yes, that's exactly where it has hurt Swaby the most. So one final look at this. There's Pete Harrod making a way by. They're on the right-hand side, and they head through Bishop's Corner here, this right-hander, and just running out of road. And bang, one spin, two spin, red spin, blue spin, and just like that, Swaby's in tyres and in a world of hurt at the moment. One vehicle that is very slow, letting through a lot of traffic, was Stefan Vang, who has got a lot of damage on his machine, I think, because he's just had a massive engine moment, along with George Gruber, along with Travis Henderson. Let's get an eye on this one here. So Henderson's trying to make a way by. He gets a little bit of grass. Vang is a bit slow and didn't really find himself in the right position. Gruber's forced down a channel he doesn't want to go. He's trying to open out a line through Big Bend to get around. Henderson's trying to get around the both, does not want Gruber to take any lines, and all three of them get a big hit, and I believe Vang was all the cause.
Why is everybody crashing?
I don't have an answer for you for that, but we have just seen that incident. In fact, Henderson, I think, got involved in a secondary incident at the final corner as well, and that one was with Kurt Crum. So Kurt Crum was trying to make his way down the inside of Henderson, got in deep, there was contact between them. Crum decides he wants to go to Tokyo for a little bit, has one spin, has a second, and then he decides to get going. So all of a sudden, everything is just breaking down here at Sebring a little bit. That's three incidents that we have seen, probably in about the space of 5 minutes or so there, as Lyndon Swaby and Stefan Vang make their way onto the lane as Gabriel Roos finishes his final stop.
Yeah, Vang has actually gotten in. They've done the quick fix, and he is actually out and away. So Gabriel Roos is now having to dive around the Enrico Leonhardt machine, one of the only cars that I will say looks like it's been specifically painted for this, in a kind of a retro scheme, by the way. Other cars take note as I glare at the Kinetic racing machine, which doesn't look like a car it would be painted in 1989. I don't know, actually. Would it? So either way, Roos has to park his machine behind Thomas Pedersen through corner number 70. You can actually see they've entered cloud cover once again. So it's been interesting to see how the cloud cover and everything like that changes. And Jake, you would see more, you having done the 12 hours of Sebring, myself not being there. What?
I have to be honest, I didn't do the 12 hours of Sebring this year. But we
thought it was you and Connery. No, it was Will and Connery. Yes. Well, the both of us then, I was going to say, well, Hugo at least did some of it, so maybe he can say, just I wonder how much the track changed over the course of that 12-hour race with the, whole time changing and all that stuff like that. But I will say, okay, how about this? We'll do it like this. Now that it is quote-unquote almost afternoon, being 11:49 in sim time, would you like to see in these major events them upping the time scale, as it were, so they would be finishing like a race like this in the darkness? Or, I prefer the time scale to be 1-to-1. It makes sense to me. It's what's right. But, I figured I'd at least throw it to you.
I think it's fine in a 1-to-1 scale at the moment. The only other thing that maybe they could do, especially with the 2.4-hour events that they've got coming out, is run it to the maximum time scale that they've got, which is the 8-time scale. That's where you go through 24 hours in about 3 hours or so, and within 2.4, I think that's pretty fair ball to get something like that, as we just see Mikey Grems come out of pit road behind Gabriel Roos out on track. So Mikey Grems has come in for a stop, as has the race leader Dave Walsh, who has just pulled himself into his pit box, and he will be looking to make that stop, which allows João Valverde the chance to go out there again and run another longer lap again and try and save that fuel to get himself back in. If he can save 6 seconds, that's great, but I don't think João Valverde, even he, could be that good.
No, and Stefan Vang is back in pit lane, but that is because he has to do his pit stop. You can come in and get the car fixed. Then he went out, did a lap, and now he's coming in and get his pit stop. So I don't believe anything else has happened to the Stefan Vang machine, and I mention that because you'll see him driving by. There's David Baker. He was the one who was running in the fifth position. He is now going to be dropping back as your leader is out and away, as Dave Walsh will be parked just behind Yuldis Putzglias, that 16th position 666, and just ahead of Jamie Rushworth, who has been having a very good day in that CQR Club machine.
Yes, Jamie Rushworth has been running very, very strongly here today, and well, he's only a pit stop behind, and well, nice trial by fire to get yourself into this sort of racing series. So Jamie Rushworth is certainly proving his worth at the moment as this battle, Roberts versus Putecalis, continues out on track. They've got a GTO traffic and Marcus Niskanen to find a way by on, and they will do just that at this point in time. So through they go without any real worries at all. But this is where pandemonium starts, because Dave Walsh is trying to get through all of this, and it's a case of no, I need you to go through to try and get me to go through. It's almost malfunctioning at the junction ever so slightly, but pulling out of the way there is Putecalis. That allows Dave Walsh through. Traffic would not have been on the agenda at that point as João Valverde hits his box.
Yeah, and that's why Dave Walsh is being so aggressive. He knows that this is it. This is the time that he has to really push the subject. And Dave Walsh going behind Philip Lake, he'll duck and dive to the right side behind Philip Lake. And John Roberts will be there. He'll go way wide. I think wider than perhaps you would like to go. But you know what? He'll get the undercut. He looks to come into John Roberts. Whereas João Valverde, he actually looks like he's going to be clearing him by a long shot.
Yes, he is. Off of pit road comes João Valverde, and he's already lost that position that he didn't want to against Dave Walsh. A very long stop. I wonder if he fully filled the tank up as much as he struggled. In comes Jamie Rushworth now to make his stop as well. So he'll be racing David E. Baker out on track, trying to get back into play with this one as this race looks to continue. A lot of drivers choosing to go short on this second stint as well, and really just make it 2 even stints to get to the end as Rushworth stays in the box, because those like Eric Mickey, for example, have yet to come down on the lane. Gabriel Roos finds a way by, as does Mikey Grems. Question becomes, does a certain David E. Baker find a way by? Well, through is Christian Rose, who has yet to come down in for his stop. Off of pit road comes Rushworth. He's battling Baker, who's only coming down the front stretch now, and I think he's gone and jumped him here. Gets the power on, heads towards turn number 1, the first corner, and Jamie Rushworth has cleared his rival.
Yeah, most definitely, and it's, well, I think it's teammate. I think they're both CQR drivers, I think for me it's interesting because João Valverde was not able to jump Dave Walsh, despite doing the exact same thing that Rushworth did, where he has jumped. So interesting to see here how that developed out and how that went down. I am curious to see how the fuels and all that went by. But I will say this sets ourselves up for the last half an hour of this event, Jake. And I have a feeling it's going to be a pretty good one.
I think it will do as well. Pete Harrod currently in the number 1, holds the lead by 9 seconds, but Harrod has to come in and serve his final stop of the day. There is no ifs, no buts, no ands, unless he wants to run himself out of fuel and take a tow. There is no other alternatives at the moment. Dave Walsh is the net race leader, with João Valverde then in second position, net on the road. Eric Mickey is due in on pit road, with Jamie Rushworth having just come in. Matthias Magnussen hits the lane right now as we speak, the championship leader coming into this one. Gabriel Roos is going to pick up some good points at the moment. He is net third at the moment, out on track with Mikey Grems. Net's fourth. Christian Rose still yet to come down in, as is Jean-Francois Arsenault as well here in this one. But this is going to be a change of position right now on the road, because David E. Baker's down the inside and Jean-Francois Arsenault had nothing really to respond with.
Yeah, and sorry to kind of jump, you had mentioned overall third. Well, third in GTO is one Dennis Neildhart of the 816, as we are watching Matthias Magnussen leave pit lane right now in his GTP machine. But I just point out the 816 because we haven't really talked about him basically all day long, and he is having a very good podium run here in the GTO machine, and he has got a very comfortable gap both to the front and to the back, and I have to say, I mean, he's worked himself up through, and he's looking to have probably one of the best finishes he could have in the major series all season.
I've just had a look at George Gruber here, and he has just pulled the car off and retired it. So I don't know what's happened there with him. I don't know what issues that the Talk Free car has had, but it is out of the event, and it had run into damage earlier on in this one. So that's a shame to see from George Gruber, but he is out of the race. Top 5 at the moment then in GTO are as follows. Joni Hagner holds the lead over Christian Challoner in second position. It's Dennis Neidhart in third. Robert Lenjak in 4th position, and 5th is currently being housed by Philip Lake at the moment. We don't expect many to come in and need to make a final stop. Slow is Puteklis, who lets through João Valverde in the form of lap traffic. And just speaking of vehicles who have just run off a little bit wide, one Rob Alenzajak has just accelerated a little bit too much into the hairpin, and as such has to take a detour and takes a couple of cones with him for the troubles.
Rip cones. Yeah, it is at that period of time where if you make a single mistake at this point, there is no recovering anymore. That is just time lost that you can't get back. So you really need to start focusing. You really need to start getting yourself sorted out and situated, because the last thing you want is to throw away a good hour and a half of wrangling with these cars. We have to remember, with these machines, it is about as quote purist unquote as you can, as far as angry trying to murder you racing machines. Being really before the computer technology not ruined it, but just changed how everything went. These cars are tiring to race. They're stressful to race. 2 hours is a really long time to be sitting in these cars. And to throw away a good hour and a half of racing would certainly be demoralizing.
It certainly would, and nobody wants to throw that sort of racing away here, especially at this later stage here of the event. We are into the final quarter of this one here. Under 30 minutes left to go for Dave Walsh, who has control of this one almost. He's 5 seconds behind Pete Harrod now and is really rocking around this track with a 49.2. That last time by, he's running a second a lap quicker at this stage here of the event. So that's just something to keep in mind as this one continues to go on out on circuit. But Cam, we don't often see too much of the classics. They find themselves at their own little home. They've got their own championships that get sorted out, and they work very well. And there are a lot of drivers in both categories who really find that these sorts of vehicles are far different to anything else that you find on the iRacing service. I think it takes a certain style of driver, especially, to try and drive these sorts of vehicles, and that's why someone like Joni Hagner, who was someone who very famously about 2 years ago fell out of love with sim racing because of just how samey and repetitive it was, saw that the GTO was coming into iRacing, as down on pit road comes Jean-Francois Arsenault, and he really took to that GTO and really gave him a new lease of life when it comes to sim racing, and now it's probably his #1 vehicle he goes to.
Yeah, and I can totally understand why. I have driven the GTP, I have driven the GTO machines everywhere that you can. I raced the first couple of seasons in these machines, and I can tell you, it will get you absolutely right back to the roots of what we love about of racing, as it were. As Pete Harrod still has not come into pit lane, which is very impressive for me, but I will say Dave Walsh is only 4.6 seconds back, so as far as I'm concerned, that pit stop is probably going to drop him back to 6th or 7th position whenever Pete does come in. But I love these machines because it really is sort of that golden era of sports car racing that everyone so fondly looks back to, even though, of course, it wasn't, say, a golden era, as it were. We just remember it fondly as it, you know, that was the time where there were very, very big manufacturer involvements. Of course, this is the Nissan GTP, the most successful GTP car, and therefore, in my opinion, one of the most successful sports cars, because GTP is, of course, a evolution iteration in Group C. But you had your Porsche 962s, you had the giant Buicks and the Pontiacs and the Fords and all the other wonky GTP efforts that would just seem to show up out of nowhere and then probably go back to nowhere. And so a lot of people finally remember this era of time, and so I think that's one reason why people love this challenge. But on top of that, they're just darn good cars to drive.
They certainly are very, very good cars to drive, and we've seen some very good drivers finding themselves in and really make some good headway and some progress here in this event. Pete Harrod made 27 laps on his opening stint here of this event, and that was, of course, including that pace lap as well. So we should be seeing him in maybe lap 54, lap 55 is the estimate that we are seeing, but could easily come down in this time by as he starts his 53rd lap of racing action here today. Still no chance that he can make his way home. The couple of battles that we got out on circuit at the moment is Gabriel Roos versus Mikey Grems, but that one is falling away from Grems, who is dropping back at the rate of a second a lap, as there is Josh Wolf again finding himself in the grass, and that was with a spin, and it was with a GTO vehicle as well to boot. That was Thomas Pettersson. So RaceBot TV replay then, we'll get that on screen. Just drop that back a little bit as Josh Wolf now in the 48 makes his way through the lefts and the rights and gets himself through the final section. Is he just going to carry too much speed on the exit here? No, he's not. It's going to be a spin on the curb there for Pettersson. Wolf is left with nowhere to go, and bang, it happens just like that. And you have to remember, with the long wheelbase as well that the GTP has, it's very, very difficult for it to really maneuver and be very nimble when it turns.
Yeah, you can't just dive out of the way, as it were. But yeah, poor Josh Wolf, I have to say. What a bummer for him. It seems that this has happened now 2 or 3 times this race, where there's just been incidents unfolding in front of him. Now, obviously, sometimes he has caused his own incidents, as it were. But yeah, for Josh Wolf, just what can you do when the car in front of you? Now, what you're looking to do in the GTP is you need to get by at top speed here on the right. So that was probably the worst period of time that he could do that, that the GTO could spin. So just another unfortunate event in the chapter of Joshua Wolf's campaign here in the 2 Hours of Sebring in the Danger Series.
Yeah, it hasn't been the day that he's been wanting here, and he knows that better than anybody else. He will cede points in the championship, and it will drop him back probably 5th, probably 6th position there or thereabouts, and there's really not much that he can do to argue against it, as Christian Challoner currently is on course to take the lead of the championship heading to Bristol, and that must be really, really frustrating for drivers as Eric Mickey makes his way in. For someone like Christian Challoner to be running on his own in 2nd position, he's got no real worries in front of him as the race leader goes by him right now here, Cam. To say that Christian Challoner is a good driver is one thing, when oval is very clearly his strong point with the pro license he has. Question becomes, how do you get by someone who is doing very well on the road?
Well, do things as you normally do at Bristol. Punt them.
Punt to pass.
No, I don't. Please don't. But I will say it is, in essence, not just the individual effort, as these teams or constructors, as we call them here, do put a lot of effort into their setups and the practice and the communications and everything like that, and strategy. And well, it's one thing to understand that of how to run Bristol. Honestly, I will say, for somebody who is as not elbows out as I am not an elbows out driver. I can never do touring cars or anything like that. I love Bristol. You can get into such a pattern at Bristol, and especially if it's a night race, it is going to be a blast. But even if it's not, Bristol is always fun.
Leader
it is, as the leader finally does settle in. I will say, it is one of those situations where Bristol does need a bit more of a stiff upper lip attitude, as it were, in order to get yourself around.
Very, very true. So Pete Harrod departs from the lead. That gives it back to Dave Walsh, who currently holds 14 seconds over João Valverde out on circuit. So Pete Harrod was behind Baker and Rushworth when he came into, when they came down onto pit road. Rushworth is first out of those two by almost 4 seconds at the moment, so we'll keep an eye on where that 03 is going to come out, as Rushworth misses his apex very, very heavily through that section. In fact, has come out, both of them ahead of Eric Mickey, so I think that this may just be getting out miles ahead, and in fact gets out very much miles ahead. Behind Mikey Grems in 5th position now. Finds Pete Harrod, which is very good driving and great strategy from the team Madman, as he has done very well to get himself in a strong position to get some very nice points coming over to Bristol.
Yeah, I could have swore that he was going to be dropped back to 7th, maybe a little further back, but no. Because of how little fuel he had to take, he was able to jump quite a couple of positions with this decision. Very smart on his part, so good for him. And for Dave Walsh, he has cleared João Valverde, and Dave Walsh has recovered from his earlier issue, where he had lost that position because of a time give back. And there is Joni Hagner coming off of Sunset Bend, and he will let the GTP leader go by. Are they just they're sitting side by side each other. They did this little cute little thing on the front stretch there before they went on their own separate ways. They know what's up as the time is ticking out. But for Dave Walsh, he now goes to the inside of Marcus Niskanen. He's going back on a hot lap.
Yeah, he's going back to do what he does best, which is manifest a gap, and the 842 has done so very effectively today after picking up the position just after the pit stop, the first pit stop window where he regained the race lead. So that has pretty much stayed the same, as has this field effectively in GTO for the last 40 minutes or so. Joni Hagner has had control right from minute one, and there's been nothing that Christian Schallner has been able to do. It has been a slow and strenuous gap gain from Hagner, but Schallner has really not seen anything to do. Props though to Dennis Neidhart here in third position, ahead of Robert Lenzjak, ahead of Philip Lake, who are probably two of the biggest staples to this style of racing. Dennis Neidhart, you have to take a hat off and say that he has run very, very well over the course of this so far, and he will take that third position and really, really boost on with that heading to the next round.
Yeah, most definitely. And so just a great, I love seeing, you know, fancy and unique paint schemes. X-Match Racing, not quite sure what that club is or anything. He's a Club Diatsch driver, a German, but I will say he is a driver in the what's called the VCR Championship, which is the equivalent to the CTC, if you're familiar with the Lotus 79. It's kind of the official championship thing where they all get to run retro paint schemes and whatnot. But overall, I have to say, what a fantastic day that he has had here in the Major Series. And why wouldn't you want to come out and join it? If you love these types of racing machines, Jake, you don't tend to get big events to really showcase your skills.
I haven't seen anything really as massive as that Road America 500 that was running its debut year, and we haven't really seen anything since on that front, so that's just something to keep in mind. Battle for the final positions on the leading lap then at the moment is between Christian Rose and Clifton Naranjo. Naranjo on that last lap lost 1.4 seconds and as such lost the position as well, so Christian Rose is pulling away now a gap here to Naranjo as he tries to get back up towards someone like Kurt Crum, who's made his longer second stop and now is dropped back into 10th position at the moment. Not what was maybe ideal for his race, but you have to say Kurt Crum has probably done well to get 10th out of where he was starting.
Yeah, well, he started in 4th, but after those incidents, after dropping back, after having issue after issue, yeah, definitely 10th position. Way better than a retirement. You have to remember a couple of retirements, Trevor Vorsky, Dawson Brock. In the GTP, Travis Henderson had issues, Joshua Wolf has had issues. Puteknios has not really been there all day, and so, you know, absolutely a nice recovery from what could have certainly been a race-ending incident, and instead he's going to come home the top 10.
And a top 10 will be very welcome heading to Bristol for Kurt Crum, but gap between Gabriel Roos and Mikey Grems is at 5 seconds. Gap between Mikey Grems and Pete Harrod is 5 seconds, and Harrod just took a second out of Mikey over that last lap. So bit between the teeth stuff at the moment from Team Mad. They are going to drive without any hope in the world potentially of making that move. They know they've got 21 seconds to Jamie Rushworth here, Cam. Now Pete Harrod's looking for 4th.
Yeah, definitely. You know, new tires, not a lot of fuel. Absolutely. This is what these cars are built for, these short sprints. That is what the GTP series was all about. They basically took the recipe.
Whoa, Travis Henderson just in front of Pete Harrod finds the retaining wall. Coming out to the final corner, got a wiggle, smacked the brakes on early, took every cone out in the vicinity and hit the last one, and actually managed to avoid the tyres except when reversing. Managed to get that one back straight and going again. So Travis Henderson is very, very lucky not to have run himself into issues, but Pete Harrod all of a sudden sees Gabriel Roos incredibly slow, and thank you very much, position gained. Gabriel Roos struggling because he'd spun it coming out of turn number 5. Let's get a replay of this. Just trying to put the power down. Whoop, tyres are gone in the rears, and just like that, there is Gabriel Roos ceding more positions in the championship now and more points, crucially, to Christian Schallner.
Yeah, most definitely. And for Pete Harrod, I mean, it's now looking like that's like some kind of masterstroke, as it were. I mean, You can see him wrangling the wheel off of the corner here as he is throwing that Nissan, or the Nissan, depending, through the gears on corner exit. He just seems to be pretty comfortable. Pete Harrod's on a bit of a tear right now. So he has gotten by Gabriel Roos, and now he has got to try to lock into to Mickey Grems. He can actually see Mickey Grems. Grems had to slow down for Marcus Niskanen's GTO car in front of him. He can see him, and there might just be enough time where he might be able to close the gap.
12 minutes, 5 seconds. He took half a second that last time by. He's got himself, probably in terms of time, he's got about 7 laps. If he wants to chase that down, probably 6, but you're not going to chase it if you're going to deal with traffic like that, Pete. There was Marcus Niskanen in the middle of the road, and that was an abrupt decision. This is allowing Gabriel Roos then the chance to get back in the battle for 4th place. Gap down 3.2 seconds, but Gabriel Roos is not giving this one up. He's got to get points back, and he's not going to get the move done at 1, and he will not get it done at 3 either. So Gabriel Roos all of a sudden in this scrap, and the one who's got to worry the most in all of this, Mikey Grems, who is in 3rd position, because even though they are pseudo-battling, they are chasing down for a podium.
Yeah, absolutely, and with time winding down, it's only going to be a situation where the window is going to be very narrow for making a pass as he gets by Yoni Hagner, and Gabriel Roos does not put on a charge going into corner number 7. But I will say, for Mikey Grems, it has to be in your head that if you do get caught, there is only going to be maybe 1 opportunity to pass you, which means that the risk will be high, and they're going to catch you if they keep doing stuff like that, where Mikey has driven off of the racetrack and back onto it. Thankfully, he was able to keep the car under control, but it's only a matter of time if he keeps driving like that before he gets got.
Pressure tells then for Mikey Grems. Look a little bit further down. Eric Mickey has got 2 that he's got to try and get by, and that's David E. Baker and Jamie Rushworth out on track, as Mickey, of course, also has the fresh tyres. He's going to go to the outside trying to make this one happen. He's picked away down the inside on the Professor David Baker, and well, there's nothing you can do, Mr. Baker, as that goes through Eric Mickey and up into 7th position. Next up on the list for him is Jamie Rushworth, and he knows it's only a matter of time before that gets chased down with 10 minutes left now in this race. All of a sudden, Pete Harrod, has he closed that gap down to what he's wanted? It was a 50.1 for Mikey Grems, 49.7 for Pete Harrod. So Harrod managed to take another 4/10 of a second out of Mikey, but 4/10 does not do it at this stage with 5 laps to go at Sebring.
Yeah, and it is only a matter of time before it is too late. I'm looking up the track, and I don't really see any GTO machines that could have a significant impact. Everyone looks kind of spread out. There will be a trio of GTO machines led by Enrico Lionheart, though they're all on different gaps. Lowland and Swabi is chasing down Enrico Lionheart, but they're split by Philip Lake, who is a lap ahead of them. But it doesn't look to me like that should pose too much of an issue. But I will say it's been a fantastic final bit of a chapter here in the book of this 2 hours of Sebring. It's absolutely been a wonderful event.
It certainly has done. Mikey Grems, though, is the man under pressure, as now it's Harrod who's making the charge, not Gabriel Roos, who's got nothing left, it seems, in order to make this work. Jamie Rushworth versus Eric Mickey. Rushworth was quicker on that last lap by, as there's almost a mistake there from Travis Henderson again. Henderson really struggling, and as such, check up from Jamie Rushworth that may give Eric Mickey the chance here to close that gap down. But more and more, it seems like it's going to be more likely 4.53 versus 1 than it is going to be 03 versus 88. But Pete Harrod now, he can see through Sunset Bend the faint trails, even the tyre marks that are coming off of Mikey Grems' machine. Grems that last time by, another 50.1. Harrod, much better, 49.3, as off of pit road comes Christian Rose, and now he hits the traffic to boot as well. This is not ideal for Mikey Grems. The gap's under 2 seconds.
Yeah, and Philip Lake is now just ahead of Mikey Grems as Philip Lake was able to get by, but it's been about a bit of a four-wheel drift for Philip Lake this whole first sector, as here comes Mikey Grems. He's going to be able to easily get by. Pete Herod was able to easily get by on the outside, but Herod's going to have to deal with Philip Lake going into the extraordinarily tight right-hander, or will he be able to get it just timed right? I think he's going to, because he should be able to get him on the left, the driver's right, as they've got a couple of left apexes before they go into tower.
Oh, that's brave.
He throws it. Well, it's brave, but I think Philip Lake, it was telepath long enough that he obviously knew that that was coming, and I actually think that Philip Lake got on the brake a little earlier because Lake really doesn't have any competition around him, as it were. He's running his own race.
He certainly is, and look at this. Grems has got to get past Thomas Pettersson and does so without really too many issues as well. So Leonhardt and Swaby having their own scrap, being slightly interrupted at the moment, but there is Pete Harrod having to take a long way around, almost running the side there of Peterson, but that gap is 2 seconds and the traffic has not been the most helpful. Look at Swaby though, just for the moment here in the last 7 minutes. This could be a good change for position right now. Leonhardt's not the best off of the exit here, and I think this may be coordinated. Different gear changes between the pair of them, I think. Swaby pulls alongside the Canadian, and now straight through he goes, and that is up a position. Enrico Leonhardt, no chance to defend.
Yeah, no chance at all, and he's able to really easily get by. I kind of thought that maybe Leonhardt was going to be able to put on a little bit more of a defense, but you know what? There is plenty of time for that defense to happen, as it actually looks like he's even pulling away on the straight, which is interesting. But I will say, Mikey Grems still has Rob Oldsniak between him and Pete Herod. Pete Herod is now able to clear on the right side. That last lap, the traffic really helped out Mikey Grems, maybe gave him the gap he needed to come away with this one in that third position.
Look at Eric Mickey. He has caught Jamie Rushworth, who's had a couple of bad laps. Look at the last couple of laps that Rushworth has been able to do. 150.9 followed by a 151.3. It's starting to fall away. Look at what Eric Mickey did. 49 flat, 49.8. And there is why Eric Mickey is tucked up underneath then the 03 CQR Club car. So this in the final 5 minutes could be Mickey moving back up into 6th position as someone who last year proved he was the oval specialist. Well, he's going to need something at Bristol and probably something at Indy as well if he's going to get some oval crowns working, and at the moment it seems that 6th position is high on his agenda.
Yeah, not only that, I think it's important to note here, we keep talking about Bristol, the racetrack. We also have to remember these are going to be raced in super late models instead of what you would call the Gen 6, or the current iteration of the NASCAR stock car. We're racing them in super late models. That is an entirely different beast. You want to talk about how specialized these cars are for their day. Think of it a bit like a sprint car. Think of it like a dirt sprint car, with how specialized it is to do that one thing and one thing only, which is to put as much traction on the right rear as possible and get the car to fling the car around. A super late model is basically that same thing in asphalt, as Mickey almost looked to the inside, but he saw Leonhardt. He might actually try to go on the inside. He does not. I think he's just putting on pressure to Jamie Rushworth to see if he can maybe poke some mistake out of him, but it just wasn't there.
Well, he's got 3 laps to make this work, as I've just seen on pit road a certain Stefan Wang, so he's got himself all shades trouble. Running wide is Rushworth coming out of turn number 1. He's got to be careful about that. Mickey has found himself in position now to start being aggressive, to start attacking, to start looking for holes in the Rushworth armour. Don't forget Pete Harrod either. He's brought the gap down to 1.5 seconds, and if that, now almost 1 second here between them. That one can still go off with sparks as the pair of Mickey and Rushworth hit the chicane coming up of Fangio. And now, right, you have to say here, Cam, Eric Mickey is waiting for that move, but traffic is not allowing him the chance to go out there and be aggressive. He has to weave over to the right-hand side fully, almost entering the West Pit exit.
Yeah, and it's really just kind of that the quick left-right of turns 8 and 9. and which then leads you to Cunningham as Rushworth. He is going to lose the front end, and that is going to be it. Eric Mickey is going to be able to get around courtesy of Philip Lake, not because Philip Lake has done anything wrong, but just because his car was simply there. So for Jamie Rushworth, this might almost be a bit of a saving grace, Jake, because instead of perhaps getting passed on the last lap and not having a chance to attack, now Rushworth is going to be in the ones who has the crosshairs on Eric Mickey.
But he's got the crosshair on right now and pulls hard to the inside. Late move decision, and he's going to stay on that inside line. Mickey carries more speed through the mid part of the corner, and there's the traffic on the exit that just stays out of the way. Alain Sajak does very well, but here's the run to turn number 1. This was probably what Rushworth was waiting for, but he's got to go the long way around if he's going to make this one work. And stuck on that outside line, does he pick the run up off of the exit? Yes, he does, but not enough. So position gained for Eric Mickey, but it was hard fought for throughout the course of this. Now look up to Pete Harrod, because with 2 laps to go, he has caught the rear of Mikey Grams. Mikey's got 1.5 laps to hold on here in this race.
Yeah, and Rushworth has just fallen just a smidge behind Mickey to give us the amount of time we need. Is somebody has gone for a spin, as it's Jean-Francois has gone for a spin in corner number 13, all on his own, trying to pass the car. So just to update there, nothing else had gone on from that. So for Pete Harrod and Mikey Grens, as they're swerving their way through Gendabian and then Le Mans, as then they work their way down the Ullman Straight, the legendary Ullman Straight, as this battle is kicking off.
It is, and they'll only have 1 lap to go, because the white flag lap has been taken by Dave Walsh, who makes his way through Big Bend at the moment without any worries in the world. 22 seconds his lead at the moment, but here comes the move. They had to go around the outside and lap traffic there. It was a Grizzly car. David H. Baker, Pete Harrod senses the motive. There hard on the inside is Mikey Grems to the outside. Tries the Team Mad driver, who screams it far too wide, and Grems spins it, heading through turn 1. Harrod taking the outside line, forces the unforced error out to Mikey Grems, and Mikey loses out just with the lack of traction heading through that section. He's lucky he's kept that in a straight line, and he stays ahead of Gabriel Roos, but Mikey Grems has thrown the podium away on the final lap of this race. But for Dave Walsh, he will head himself through the final sections. This Ullman Straight comes along at the latest possible point, and there's only Joni Hagner ahead. If Hagner wants to get this one over and done with, he can finish this one behind Dave Walsh, and he will be considered a winner. If not, he will have a lap of glory to go along with it. But for Dave Walsh, who fought hard after the pit stop window, built a massive gap and had been best all day long, has only made 1 small error all day. He takes Sunset Bend, and TDR will come to the line with Dave Walsh, and they will win here at Sebring in the way that only they can. It will be 2nd position for João Valverde, who will make his way to the line, and he will have a very strong race under his belt after what was almost the opportunity to pick up a victory. And it will be 3rd for the time being for Pete Harrod, who worked hard in that final stint to get himself over to the line. Cam, that has been some great racing.
Absolutely, and very unfortunate for Mikey Grams. Just he took a little bit too narrow of a line through corner number 1, as Pete Harrod will take his hard-fought position at number 3, rounding out your podium. And for Mikey Grams, I can tell you he was not expecting the car to lose traction there. And what a lion of an effort that he has done to save that car. That could have easily gone on the outside wall. And the last car running on the track right now is no less than your Rice leader in the GTO division, and that's Joni Hagner.
Yes, it is. Joni Hagner will get a lap of glory to himself.
Oh, he's drifting it.
Yeah, he is. He's doing the Hagner style, which is if you've got a lap, you drift it around and you showcase your amazing kart control, which, of course, the funny thing about Finland is to actually get a driver's license, you need to be able to successfully perform a Scandinavian flick. as he now gets himself drifting through left, right, and the final left. He's got nothing to lose. Nice slip angle as he gets himself onto the Ullman Straight. And just watch out, because Sunset Bend is the final corner left on his race, and that will be the most beautiful drift I think you're going to see for a little while, as Hagner will smack the brakes. He'll turn it in late, struggling there with the angle as he goes through the first part.
Oh, the drive ruined it.
Yeah, I think he's got understeer, but he'll pick it up on the second half anyway. Nice slide as Joni Hagner will take Glacier to victory here in GTO. Classified results then are up on your screen. Dave Walsh then picks up the victory, 22 seconds. The advantage that he's got. João Valverde will come home second, with Pete Harrod racing to a podium in the final stages. Mikey Grems costing himself said podium in 4th position, with Gabriel Roos in 5th. Eric Mickey gets 6th, with Jamie Rushworth 7th. David E. Baker is 8th position. Last driver on the lead lap was the championship leader coming into this event, Matthias Magnussen, who gets 9th position overall. Kurt Crum rounds out the top 10. Clifton Naranjo is 1 lap down in 11th, with Jean-Francois Arsenault and Christian Rose. John Roberts is 14th, Udis Putekelis and Claude Belval 15th and 16th. Joshua Wolf's had a horrid and torrid day. He gets 17th, with Travis Henderson 18th in his class. The two that retired, Dawson Brock and Trevor Vavrovsky. GTO maybe a little bit more calamitous, but Joni Hagner had no such worries. A lap of glory for him as he wins over Christian Schallner, who becomes the championship leader heading to Bristol with a 2nd place finish. Dennis Neidhart gets 3rd, with Philip Lake 4th and Rob Alenzajak in 5th. Marcus Niskanen gets 6th, Diego Jimenez in 7th, and David H. Baker in 8th place, with Andreas Robertson and Thomas Pettersson rounding out the top 10. Lyndon Swaby and Lico Leonhardt had their battle towards the end. Adam Fatcher-Ponti got into incident, as did Stefan Vang. But those who retired in GTO, George Gruber, David Wilson Jr., Matthew Webb, Kieradin Boafia with clutch issues, and Riley Thompson to boot as well. But we're going to jump straight into interviews, because our race winner is very, very eager to get along and talk with us. Dave Walsh joins us here in the commentary booth. Dave, couple of slowdown penalties there in the opening stint of, for you in that event. So really a race that you had to fight to claw back with, but clearly with a 22-second race victory, definitely had the pace today.
Yeah, I started with a lot of mistakes. I probably had 5 or 6 slowdowns in the first hour, most of which came right behind Audis, so I just sit behind them to get rid of them. But yeah, I was pretty mad when I got the first one and dropped to like 5th while leading. But I managed to get it back, jumped both. I think it was 2 kinetic cars ahead of me when I was in 3rd. I jumped both of them in the pit stops, and from then it was just don't let Yao pass me, and then try and open the gap as much as I could.
And how difficult was that coming out to pit road side by side? You saw João Valverde coming out, so you knew that you had to be really aggressive and getting that one to work out for you. So ultimately, how did that one play out in terms of your hands?
Yeah, I didn't know he was there. I couldn't see him on the relative. I was trying to find out where he was, and I thought he hadn't pit. And then I just saw him coming out of the pit lane, so I knew I'd have to take turn 1 a bit slower. And then just tried to hold it into turn probably 2 or 3 on the brakes, and just try and get past him, and it seemed to work. I just kind of had to hope he wouldn't hold it on the outside, because I probably would have pushed him off the track if he did try to.
Well, you got yourself a big, big victory, and it's one which you can take, especially when it's going to the next track, which is Bristol, especially in super late models as well. So a very highly strung style of vehicle with a very elbows out style circuit. How are you feeling, especially knowing that you've got a peak driver that you're battling against who leads the championship?
I mean, I've got a peak driver that I'm battling against, but I'm on a peak team myself. Well, a peak team with 1 peak driver, so hopefully I'll be able to get someone on the team to help me out and get a set for that, and then hopefully we'll be able to battle with Christian. I'm not sure if we will, but we'll give it our best shot.
Well, before we let you go, Dave, any shout-outs or sponsors?
Just everyone at TDR. That's about it, and then you guys for the broadcast, and Mike and everyone for putting on the race.
No worries at all. Dave Walsh then picking up a big race victory then in this one. Cam, how was your little break? not applicable at the moment. So we're going to just jump in and get Joni Hagner into the conversation then. Joni, a big victory, a lap of honour as well. How much style were you trying to put into that final lap with the drifting?
Actually, it was pretty awful drifting because the tires were quite short after 1 hour, but yeah.
Well, you found yourself with a lot of battling. You had a lot of rivals against you in the early stages, but it seemed that for all the main threats and challenges that were going to be there today, Riley Thompson ran into troubles early on, and Kieradin Boafia managed to have issues with his clutch. So would you say that maybe you only had one real rival to fight today in Christian Schallner?
Actually, there was a couple of dudes who can do in the good day something very good driving, but yeah, I was like trying to save fuel and be 1/10 at least faster than car behind, so yeah.
Found yourself with some great racing. I'm not too sure that you're going to be staying around too much more in the Majors series. I know that you are a GTO specialist through and through, but what's next up then for Joni Hagner in terms of where he's going to be racing?
Well, at least not the Porsche GTE, because yeah, yesterday was a really awful idea to drive the car. It was not our car.
Well, it won't be GTE, so it is a mystery to see where Joni Hagner and Glacier Racing will turn up next. But before we let you go, any shout-outs or sponsors?
Hi, Mum.
Oh, of course, you gotta thank Mum. Mum's the biggest sponsor of them all. Joni Hagner there, joining us, race victory in the in the GTOs. Now he's got me going now. But unfortunately, that's all that we're gonna have time for here on the iRacing Esports Network. But stick around because the 2K World Cup heads to New Hampshire for oval action. Make sure that you join myself then for that one. But from Cam Walsh, from Hugo Luis behind the cameras, I'm Jake Sperry, and some great action that we have seen overall. Got to thank sponsors as well, and Vern Designs, the official graphics partners here at RaceBot TV, along with ATVO and Apgeneer, the official graphics engine that we have. Our animations brought to you by Simon Grossman, live timing and scoring by Nick Thyssen, and as well, our cameras done by Istvan Ballows, TrackCams22. Make sure that you check them out. Big victory for Dave Walsh. He gets this season back on track. Joni Hagner takes it in style in the way that only he can. But it's Championship lead Schallner as they make their way to Bristol and they make their way to short track action. Make sure you stick around here because in about an hour 45, it's 2K oval style and we're going to get Skip Barbers having a really good run. We'll see you in about 105.